Dr. Stone is a must-watch for people like me, for people that like anime with some rules. And the rules for this anime are the rules of science. So let's see how it starts. At the beginning, in Japan, modern Japan, there is a mysterious green light that goes around petrifying everyone. And everyone is apparently dead, or at least they are not active. The source of this attack is unknown. It could be an alien attack. It could be military from some country that doesn't like Japan, or from some terrorist group or something like that. Or it could be a magical attack. By the perspective of real science, that is magic. There's nothing like that in science. And it's interesting how a show about science, it starts by opening a metaphysical door. The main character of this show is Senku. Senku eventually, by chance, wakes up in a cave and finds out the nitric acid from bat guano is responsible for deteriorating the stone that compose his outer shell, and miraculously he is still alive, and turns out he has been counting the seconds. He has an approximate idea of how long he's been petrified. His plan is to rebuild civilization. He doesn't know the source of the attack, but he's very optimistic about reviving people, just like he was revived by a mysterious chemical in bat guano. He thinks this is all very exhilarating. That's something he says a lot. So the year is 5,738. It's been 3,700 years. Apparently, all humans have been petrified. He's a 15-year-old genius who was working in his high school when it happened. He sets up a base camp and starts to study the chemical that cured his petrification. Over the course of 6 months, he tries to revive his friend Taiju Oki, eventually is successful, and his next step is to develop a concoction that is able to revive people instantaneously, that is, without waiting for 6 months. The compound is used to instantly revive others, and more people are joining Senku's group. There is Taiju, which I mentioned, then there is Yuzuriha, which is a girl Taiju likes, and this is, by the way, a reference to Genesis, but it's not supposed to be disrespectful, because in this case, Senku is the overseeing, all-powerful, all-knowing creator, and he brings back to life his friend Taiju, which corresponds to Adam, and then he brings a woman to his life, which Taiju already liked from the high school years. It's supposed to appeal to both people who like science and people who are aware of Genesis. Eventually, he also revives a warrior kind of guy called Tsukasa, and Tsukasa soon reveals himself to be the antagonist of the first season. However, I cannot go further than this, otherwise it would be leading to major spoiler. Later characters that I'm just going to mention, Gen, which is a mentalist. Mentalist is another word for magician. Illusionist, someone who is good at tricking people or applying psychology to get what they want, or doing visual illusion, stuff like that. There is Chrome, which is a primitive kind of scientist. I'm not gonna say more than that. And then there is Kohaku, a female primitive warrior. Eventually, the story boils down to a competition, more like a war, between the Kingdom of Science and the Tsukasa Empire. Kingdom of Science is trying to come back to modern life standards, and Tsukasa Empire has more of a primitivist goal, which is trying to limit the kinds of technology that are developed by people, and also trying to control who gets revived and who doesn't. The show's distinction is, of course, the mention of science. There are many situations in which basic knowledge of science would suffice to create an advantage for primitive peoples if only they knew how to apply it. Things that are mentioned in the anime are sulfuric acid, sulfuric gas, batteries, light bulbs, mechanical machines, a tank, a boat, a cell phone, and a music player. Given that the source of the green light attack is unknown, the metaphysical question is always open but never explored, at least for the first 2 seasons. This is not a spoiler because someone who starts watching this show does not expect any magic to come up as a major element to the plot. But there is still a bunch of metaphysical appeals to the show. Morality as an objective limit for human behavior is constantly mentioned, referred, and acted on the show. This is the beginning of metaphysics. There is no time for subjective morality, even for scientists like Senku. His hope is, by any measurement, not materialistic. You might think his hope is based on his knowledge of science, which is partially correct, but given the hardships they go through and the small time window he has to figure out a solution without leading to non-optimal scenarios where someone dies, implies he's always on the edge of his knowledge. At some point in the show, I'm not going to say when, he even supposes to be able to initiate a petrification process, even though he doesn't know the nature of the process. He simply has faith in science. That is a metaphysical position. So let's talk about the critical reception of the first 2 seasons. So season 1 went through the roof on the charts of audience for animes worldwide, not just Japan, but also the West. It has many unexpected events, and by the end, there's a major twist. There's also worth in mentioning the non-lethality of the plot. I'm not gonna say that nobody dies, because not only that would be a spoiler, but I'm just gonna say almost nobody dies in the plot. What about season 2? Season 2 just came out at the beginning of this year, 2021, if you're watching in the future. And there's still discussion whether it surpasses season 1. It is shorter than season 1, and season 2 has a different feel and sense of pace to it. It's interesting to know that season 2 corresponds to manga chapters between 53 and 83, whilst season 1 is from chapter 1 to 50. What about the manga? The manga is also a major success. As of January 2021, the Dr. Stone manga had over 8.4 million copies in circulation, and as of April 2021, the manga had over 10 million copies in circulation. It is one of the greatest mangas and anime of all times. It is currently divided in 194 chapters and is not over yet. The future for Dr. Stone is looking long and bright. Seasons have different numbers of episodes, but we can calculate how many seasons we would expect given the number of chapters in the manga current. So we just calculate the chapter to episode ratio, and then we find out we're gonna use how many anime episodes currently exist, which is 35, and then we're gonna do the following. You got 194 chapters divided by the ratio minus 35 episodes, which equals 46 more episodes at least. Season 3 has been confirmed for the anime, but given that all these chapters are gonna turn into anime, you would expect 2 to 4 more seasons of the anime at least. After 194 chapters, the manga is not close to finishing. Conclusion: the themes of good versus evil, when the distinction isn't so clear, pervades this great show. It has a good Samaritan appeal, and Senku's materialism can be seen as more of a personality trait, and not at all as an anti-Christian. On the contrary, the show, and especially the first season, is a must-watch.